We haven't done one of these in a while, so let's buckle up for a Locked On Flames mailbag.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So today, I thought it would be fun to open up the mailbag. I posted on my Twitter account, send over your questions, and I wanted to pick a few that I thought were reasonable to answer, and we're going to dive into those right here on today's episode. But first, make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And let's jump right into it. Laura from Locked On Canadians sent over a question asking, what do you see as a good return for Jonathan Huberdeau? If a trade ever, hypothetically, of course, big flashing disclaimer signs, like caution signs. I am horrendous at evaluating trades, especially when it comes to something of this nature. We all know Jonathan Huberdeau makes $10.5 million for the next 6 years, I think it is. 6 years. So, oh my God. That's a lot to say out loud. But something of this magnitude, like we see cap dumps, like Andrew Mangiapane's trade cap dump. The Devils taking on, what was it, like 60 something percent of Markstrom's cap space, whatever that was. Like, I can't do that. But immediately, my first thought was Sean Monahan, because we know at that time Sean Monahan was not playing well. He was not healthy. And things just weren't going well for him any longer in Calgary, which stinks. But what has been great about that is he's had a whole revival. But back on track to Jonathan Huberdeau. The Flames sent him to Montreal and in a conditional first round pick. Like, I feel like the Flames would need to send a lot for Huberdeau, because if they are, let's say they're retaining, let's say $5.5 million. 5. So 50%. Let's say that. I think that they're still sending a first. But like, as a return, they can just send a thank you card. Like, I'm not even kidding. You can just send a thank you card. But I mean, I guess I would say like it would have to be like a prospect, a high-end prospect, right? Like, would that, because you're not just taking a cap dump, like that. Jonathan Huberdeau can be an effective player if he is playing in the correct system. And we saw flashes of that last season. Like, let's not pretend he is just complete dead weight here. Let's give him a little credit, right? But personally, I think I would have a better idea gauging this had we already seen a Patrick Laine trade. Because for me, it's the money comparison as well as the skill level, the player, and kind of the circumstances. Granted, Huberdeau hasn't needed to take time away from the game necessarily, but we know that things have been going on. And Line A is no longer compatible in Columbus. What can you do? $8 million contract for the next few years? Okay, great. Now let's look at Huberdeau's 10.5 for the next half a decade plus. That would be like the easiest way for me to do this. But I would have to say, like, you need to get at least like a good roster player and a draft pick or a prospect at least. I mean, hindsight's 2020, but look what you gave up to get him. Oh, Matthew Tkachuk, please come home. The children miss you. But I am horrendous at gauging trades and values and returns and packaging trades. But I mean, my cat is here chiming in saying that he would love for a team to step in and maybe help the Flames out. No, I like Jonathan Huberdeau. I have a lot of respect for him. I think that the situation is just incredibly crummy, and no matter what he does, it's never going to meet the standards and expectations. And, you shouldn't have to defend a player as hard as you defend Huberdeau. But on a real note, which general manager is dumb enough to start calling the Flames in like 3 seasons and saying, "Hey, Jonathan Huberdeau," because I know that someone out there will do it. I know. I don't know if any of these current general managers will still be in the picture by then, but my money would be on, like, it feels like a very Chuck Fletcher or Stan Bowman type of thing to do. Or oh my gosh, the old general manager for Vancouver. That feels somewhere along those lines. They feels like they would be calling. But coming up next, we're going to talk about the most improved, or who I think will be the most improved players this upcoming season, which is right around the corner here on Locked On Flames. And we will be right back after this. I love going to events. I love concerts. I love comedy shows. I love theater. You name it. I enjoy going. And that's why I keep the Game Time app handy, and especially this summer heading to baseball games. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app go down the closer it gets to first pitch, which is super awesome. Because, hey, sometimes you just like to make a spontaneous decision and go to a game. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Last-minute tickets, nope, not a problem at all. Game Time has you covered, and with flash deals, you can save even more with in-app exclusive deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. Y'all have showed up this off season. The Flames have not touched the ice in just about 4 months. They've not played a game in almost 4 months. So I appreciate you sticking around this summer, especially with, the lack of movement. They've been a little quiet. But who is going to make the most noise as the most improved player? This I have in different I can't just answer this straight up. I have to break it down a little bit more. So this came from one of the guys in the Bruise Cruise chat. I believe it was Sean, who sent it over, and I appreciate you. I'm not going to be able to answer this without complicating it. For comeback player of the year, I have Rasmus Anderson. I think he is going to be the most improved from last season, mainly because of the accident. He had an accident in February 2023 and wasn't the same after that, and really had to he wasn't right, and he should have rested. And you can tell that his confidence wasn't there last year at all, and just from the lack of shooting and the overpassing, especially on the power play, you just knew something was wrong. And I'm hoping that this year, he comes back and puts on a show. Gives us the old razzle dazzle, because we need it. We would like to see that back. But otherwise, I would have to say I'm going to go with Dustin Wolf. Because he's going to finally have the ability to play consistently at the NHL level, which is what we have been wanting, what we have been waiting for. And the path is clear. It's no longer a waiting game. It's now just a matter of how are they going to utilize him? What's the plan with the tandem? Because Dan Vladar also hasn't played a lot. He doesn't have a ton of NHL experience, and he's also fresh off an injury. So that's going to be a tricky road to navigate. But I do think that Dustin will finally, I say, he doesn't even have 25 games of NHL experience, but I think he settles in. I think that we start to see the Dustin Wolf that is the Dustin Wolf. His reputation, he's going to live up to that. I think that with that is going to come pressure. And I would like everyone to remember that this kid is 23 years old, and look at the decor that's playing in front of him. I compare him to Jeremy Swayman all the time. But look at that. Compare the two decors. I think that Wolf will find a way to hold his own this year. Might take a little bit, but my money is on him. I think that it's just absolutely exciting to watch him take this next step, and I'm hopeful that he has a successful rookie year, whatever that means to him. Because I don't think anyone has this expectation of making a deep playoff run this year. And if you do, good for you. I appreciate that. I'm also going to say Matt Coronado. I'm going to say Matt Coronado because you have a player who had I don't know if tough's the right word, but his first year in the NHL or in pro hockey was a bit of an adjustment. He did very well in the AHL, and then kind of struggled to find his footing and keep up with the pace of the NHL level, which happens. It happens. I know that we've talked about it a lot on this show, but he has absolutely put in the work and has been putting in the work this off season, as well as, through last season as well, to work out the flaws and iron out those kinks, whatever the case may be for him. He has acknowledged them, like his skating. He is working on keeping up that stamina as well as breaking bad habits. And we're hoping that those translate to the NHL level this year. I think that would be super great to see. Since I named a goalie, a forward, I think it's only fair that I name a defenseman as well. I would say Joel Hanley. I think that that's just kind of like the obvious answer here because he's great defensively, but now that he's going to have some time to settle in, I think that he's going to be even better. I'm looking forward to seeing how Huska rolls out the defensive pairs and what he does to integrate, some of the younger guys, if that's something that's going to happen, because we know that while the Flames are thin on defensive blue liner prospects, there, you still want to try to make at least like one or two of them an NHLer, because that would be super great. I think that the Flames are in a good position to see improvement from a lot of players, but Rasmus Andersson is my comeback player of the year. That is, without a doubt, one of my bold predictions for this season. I think that Matt Coronado, again, takes steps to get to the level that we know that he's capable of, and kind of unlock that play and that shot, that quality shot he has at the NHL level consistently. And Dustin Wolf, like, that just feels like an obvious answer too, because he's getting a real chance now to be an NHL goaltender. And Joel Hanley, because, he was acquired, I believe, from Texas or Dallas. No, that's a lie. He was a waiver claim, which the Flames never do waiver claims, but they did 2 last year, which I thought was interesting. So, I mean, why not? Just go for it. I think that a lot of these players are hungry, and they're going to play their hearts out for the whole season. I really don't see any of this roster just kind of packing it in, phoning it in, and like calling it a day before the All-Star break or after the All-Star break until April when the season's over. But coming up next, we are going to talk about who I think will make the jump from the Wranglers to the Flames. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto, and hopefully you're subscribed to the show wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. Maya, who is a great friend of mine, asked, which Wranglers make the jump to the NHL this year. And there are a few. I think that there's going to be a handful that see NHL time. Does it stick? I don't know. Could we have another Zary and Pospisil situation here, which came out of the blue? So, like, maybe there's another dark horse that we none of us see. But I think, like, the two obvious players are obviously Coronado and Peltz and Dustin Wolf, but that's a given. I think those two players, like, they have worked very hard to get to this level. And, Peltz was supposed to be an NHL player last year, but then got injured the final preseason game and was out until February and really missed the opportunity at a full season in the NHL, and he doesn't have a contract. He's still an RFA. The Flames hold his rights, but like, I would assume that he is going to be that player that we see most of, along with Coronado. I think that those two kind of go hand in hand. And Jeremy Poirier is another one of the players that I have. I did not realize how significant of an injury he had up until a few months ago when I was doing some research and reading. He almost like lost his hockey career. A skate, like a player backed up while he was on the ice and chomped on his hand, on his bicep, arm, down, whatever that is, your forearm, your wrist area, and he could, like, it was bad. There was a lot of blood, and it was a significant injury. You know, the nerves were affected, his hand strength. You know, you have to relearn to use your hand at that point. And I found it very interesting that they like just don't talk about it in the room because of how bad it was. And how scary it was. And that again goes to the issue of safety protocol, safety precautions for players. And I'm glad that he's well. He did pretty well in the AHL playoffs. So I'm hopeful for him as well. You know, there's bound to be defensemen dinged up along the way. So I think that him, Solo, who is still waiting on a contract, as well as Kuznetsov, who I also believe is an RFA, still waiting for a contract. I think that they'll also take cracks at the lineup. But I also potentially see Cole Schwind, because we have seen him play a little bit here and there. And granted, there hasn't been a lot of room for these younger guys to come in and take over a full-time role. You know, last season, Zary and Pospisil got kind of lucky because, you know, Kevin Rooney was out with the shoulder injury. Jacob Pelletier was out with the shoulder injury, so that freed up 2 spots. You know, other players got shifted around a little bit, but that immediately opened up 2 spots. And I certainly didn't have either of them on my radar, which was a great thing. But unfortunately, it doesn't always happen like that. And I think a lot of these players are ready to take the next step in their career, whether that is continuing with the Flames organization as a Wrangler or a Flame, or just going a different direction. I mean, not everyone is going to play for one organization their whole career. I really like what all of those guys bring to their game. I think that Cole Schwind, again, adds speed and energy to the lineup, can score. Same thing with Coronado. I think that he is going to be very helpful on the power play. I think that him and Kuzmenko could be a real like force to be reckoned with. And I really want to see some of these defensive players, you know, these defensemen have a shot, like a legitimate shot, and not just like I played 12 minutes tonight, or, you know, less than that because they were double shifting someone. Or, you know, I want to see these players have a true legitimate chance at the NHL roster. And I think that this year, in the coming years, really this season and next season, I think you're going to see a lot more of the integration of the AHL lineup, or the current AHL roster, and players are going to make the jump. And I think Sam Honzik, he's going to be making the jump he's going to be playing in the AHL, I believe, this year. Hunter Brustowicz as well. I think both of them are just forces to be reckoned with. Pospisil and Honzik have been training together this offseason, and we're going to have a new fittest Flame, and I'm very curious as to who takes the title, because I feel like there are a few contenders, and the front runners are going to be Pospisil and Sam Honzik. So that will do it for me here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you to those who submitted questions. I hope you all have a fantastic day and enjoy the rest of your week. I hope August has started off well for you, and I will see you tomorrow as we wrap up the week. But until then, stay safe, stay warm, stay dry, stay cool, stay hydrated. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you're getting your podcasts and YouTube. And I will see you tomorrow.